Hello, this is my presentation for my cloud application development project SchoolSys. My name is Samuel Daly. My student number is X17140421 and I will start with a brief description of my idea. SchoolSys is a Ruby on Rails application that was designed for aiding teachers and students during the hard times that we currently find ourselves in. SchoolSys will allow students to ask questions to their teachers and will also allow the teachers to reply to those questions asked from their students. The idea for this came to me when speaking to a primary school teacher friend of mine, and she felt like there should be a better system implemented for teachers that still have to teach their students rather than using social media to contact their students. So I came up with the idea of SchoolSys to aid teachers and students during everything that we're going through. I will begin the presentation with a walkthrough demo of my application. So as we see here, this is the home page that you're brought to using the Heroku link provided in my project documentation. So firstly, I will begin by creating a user. So if we go to user sign up, we are brought to the sign up page. Here we have to enter in a email address that the user has. So for example, I'll be ncirl at ncirl.ie. My password will be password, and my password confirmation will be password. And then if I press sign up, I am brought welcome back ncirl. It takes the first name of my email address and then it says welcome back ncirl being my name. From here we have the options to either sign out, go to problems, or look at our profile. Our profile I'll look back in a moment. So firstly we'll go to problems. So currently I have a problem here set by Samuel, which is my admin account. So if I go to new problem and I want to ask a question about maths, my topic in maths would be algebra, and the question I am asking my teacher is I can't find x. So if I create that problem, the problem was successfully created, and here we have the subject was maths, the topic was algebra, and I can't find x, and then ncrl. So here is what, so the student can edit their answer if they need to, if they misspelled something and they want to fix it, or they can show the answers. There was no answers at the moment. This is because a teacher hasn't replied to them. So if we go back, we can see that maths, algebra, and I can't find x was made by ncirl. This is done so that the teacher can see who asked the question. The teacher can also, if there's a specific teacher for a subject, they can also put in, for example, cooking we have here. So if I search cooking, it'll show all the searches for cooking, and if I X this, it'll go back to all the questions. So from here we should sign out, and then if we go to user sign in, we can use my admin sign in that is offered, my password. So if I log in here, this is my admin. The admin can look through everything. It can also create teachers here. So if I go to profile, it says, as actually that's a good thing to look at. So as you see here, so a admin has the option to show, edit, or destroy. As you see here, this user was Samuel, which is me, the admin, and the questions that they asked was ingredients. So if we go to problems, it will show that the user asked question ingredients. So if we click here, it brings us straight to our question. It would also, a reply here was cook for 3 hours. That was made by a teacher. The admin can make responses as well. So if we go back, teacher sign up. So here we are, for example, NCI teacher at nci.ie, and we set the password as password confirmation, password, sign up, and then we are brought to the home page, but the teacher was created. So if we go user sign out and then teacher sign in, we go NCI teacher and password, log in. We are brought in, and so if we go to problems, it says teacher sign out. If we go to problems, we have the option to go into the maths and then we can show the problems and we can create a new answer, and the reply was x equals 4. If we create that answer, it says the answer reply is x equals 4, and if we go back to the problem, it says answers reply x equals 4. And that is the main demonstration of my application. Now I will go on to the questions that are to be answered. So for this, I'll go into my code. So the first question was 3A. Describe how you design the UI, identify examples of how you use partials and layouts. So for example, the UI was designed by using snippets of CSS that I got off of Bootstrap. I didn't want to overload my project with design, so I decided to use a small amount just to make the application look appealing. For example, if I go into App, Assets, Style Sheets, and for example go into Problems, this would show what the Problems page looks like. So that's the font that was used, the text line is in the center, the post be margin top 50 pixels, postcard, which was where the questions was displayed. That the CSS is a nutshell is just a lot of it is repeated just because I wanted it all to look the same. I didn't want anything to be out of sorts. For layouts and partials, the layouts I used were in, so if I go into views, layouts, and then application. So these are the layouts that I used, these are the layouts that I called. This is basically every navbar in the application would have this layout. It's just so they all look the same. And if you see here, we have render alerts and render user head. These are our partials. We have them here. So these are my partials for the user header. So if the current user and is an admin, it shows teacher sign up and user sign out if they're signed in. And if the current user is just a user, they can sign out. If the current user is a teacher, they'd have teacher sign out, and else if they haven't signed in, they have user sign up, user sign in, teacher sign in. If teacher sign up isn't there because only an admin can make teachers. And then for my alerts, this is basically just something that I call at the start. So if a user is signed in or if a user created an account, they'd be alerted with this. Question 3B, this is how I achieved 3B. Describe how you created your database, identify examples of validation, and highlight the relationships that exist between your models. The database was created through running Rails gmigrate, then the name of your database. So if I close this and go into DB, all my databases are here. So this can also be done through using scaffolds and models. Models is where I will show you where I declare my relationships. My validation primarily consists of email validation. So if I go to my user model, you can see here I have a reject. So this basically means that an email can only consist of this before the at, and then after the at it'll have this, and then after the dot it'll have this, and then after the dot, sorry, can have this, and then this, and then after the dot it can have this. That was my validation, and as you can see here, user has many problems, and if I go to the problem model, it says this belongs to user and a user has many answers, and this is where I have my search the subject. So these are examples of the relationships that I used. So that will conclude question 3B. So if I go to question 3C, this is how I achieve 3C. Describe how you use an external gem. I'll actually go back to 3B. These are the databases that I used. And then if I show you my schema, these are what's created on DB create. So create table problems. The problem has a subject, topic, and question. And now I will conclude 3B and go to question 3C. So describe how you used an external gem. The external gem that I used was Devise. Devise is a gem that allowed me to do user and teacher authentication. Devise makes setting up sign in and sign out very simple and in just a couple of steps. First, I declared the gem. Then I had to declare the correct routes. So for example, it would have the route 2 pages home. So the on sign in, it would route 2 pages home. So I bundled correct route, and then I generated a devise user and a devise views. So the devise views, so my devise views here is just all the confirmations, the mailer, the passwords, the registration, the sessions, the shares, and the unlocks. This is just all authentication that was needed in creating the users and teachers. And after those few steps, you're pretty much good to go and able to sign in. That will conclude question 3C. This is how I achieved question 3D. Describe how you use cookies and sessions. The cookies are stored on the local host of my website. I did not get the chance to declare them automatically in the deployed version of the website, but as you can see here, if I go to my home controller, you can see that the cookies set in. So cookies, so all the cookie name would be Sam, and then the staff number for Sam would be 0421, and once declared in the local host, it would show in the inspect that I had cookies set as Sam 0421. To set the sessions, we had to declare it in the gem file. So if I go to my gem file here, it was active record session store. The session is stored within our database, and we can see if the session is, we can see the session if we go to our application, and if I go to inspect, and then I go to cookies, so sorry, inspect, application, cookies, we see here my app session, and if I go back to my code, I have set that the cookies would be called my app session. A session stores information temporarily that is related to the user. So a longer session is larger the actual session would be. So for example, our session is only 47 kilobytes, whereas cookies would store information permanently, so it would remember if the user signed in or signed out. And that is going to conclude question 3D. Question 3E. Describe what external data sources you have integrated into your application. Unfortunately, I did not complete that item. An attempt was made, but when trying to deploy my application to Heroku, the PayPal API wouldn't allow me to deploy. So to deploy the application, I had to take out the API, and I couldn't find a way around it. Unfortunate that I couldn't put it in, but that was that. That will conclude question 3E. Question 3F, describe the approach you followed with testing your application. Testing was not extensively performed throughout the development of the application, but I did look into it. To perform unit testing, I ran Rails test models. To perform functional testing, I ran Rails test controller, and integration testing was done throughout the entire application. And to run Rails stats to show you, so if I run Rails stats here, it'll show you this box here. As I said, testing wasn't extensively done, but to explain, important stats to look at in Rails stats are this line here. So as you can see is the lines of code, which is 248, the test lines of code, which is 22, which is very small, I know, and then my ratio, which is not good at all. And then, for example, we have lines here. The lines in the controllers was 200, and the lines of code was 157. I had 6 classes in the controllers, 25 methods. My method class was 4. This could be 4.8. I'm not too sure, but it's brought to the lowest possible integer. It doesn't like float integers. And my lines of code to methods is also 4. This is done in the same way. That will conclude question 3F. Now to question 3G, this is how I achieved. Describe two design patterns that you have integrated into your application. The two design patterns that I have used are singleton and observer. The singleton class ensures that there is only one instance of a class created. How I did this was that I made my logger, so if I go to B and my logger, this for my singleton, so I have to require singleton, and once initialized it would log what I wanted to log in my log.txt, which is down here. So this meant that when I initialize it, it would write to my mylog. And if I go to my problems controller, we can see here in my def create, once a question was asked, it would save the questions, and because I required my logger up here, it would send it to my mylog.txt. So for example, it has an example run here. So it says, this is my first information, this is my second. So if I go to my code here, and I go to lib mylog.txt, it shows here. So this was just a test class that I ran. But then if I go to mylog.txt, which was an external, it wasn't in any packages, it would show all the information that I put in. So the question that you saw in the application, ingredients, it would show the question ingredients. So the observer was harder to implement. This is why how I implemented it is what an observer does is it basically tells the object that another object has been used. So by doing this, I firstly created my problem observer. So if I go to my code here and I go to my problems observer in my models, problems observer here, it requires my logger. So what this class does was, once I did what I need to do, and I'll show you what I had to do, it would log all the information. So it would log subject, topic, and question. So how I did this was I did it through a updated system. So whenever anyone updated the question, it would log to the mylog.txt a question that was updated. And then if I go to my problems controller, we can see here that on update, it would get all this information, and because I have my observer class, it would log it to the mylog.txt, which it would print out like this once a question was updated. And that will conclude question 3G. Question 3H, I did not complete that item because I didn't have time, unfortunately, to create a custom gem. And this will conclude my project presentation. I hope you enjoyed what you saw, and my name is Samuel Daly. My student number is X1714041. This is my cloud application development presentation, and I hope you enjoyed what you saw. As I said, take care, have a nice day, and stay safe. Goodbye.